Hello viewers, welcome to Ekam Academy. As part of the concept of the day series, we are going to discuss important devices in parliamentary proceedings which we come across every day in the parliament session, in the newspapers especially. So let us discuss the first one. So first thing we are going to discuss is questionnaire. So any parliament session of the particular day starts with questionnaire. So when parliament assemble in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha at 11 AM exactly, so then it starts with questionnaire. So generally what happens is, in questionnaire, the members can ask some questions to the ministers and they can expect some statements in return. But this has to be done with prior permission of the speaker by informing prior. That is for the first thing. Questionnaire is generally taken with prior permission. They can ask some questions to the ministers and get some return replies. So what type of questions will be asked in questionnaire? So first one is start the question. Right? Start questions means, so these questions require oral answer. So when there is an oral answer, supplementary questions also can be followed based on the reply. But here we have to understand, these questions generally will be marked green in color, right? So start questions, they have oral answer followed by supplementary questions, and then they will be marked green in color. Then unstarred questions. So unstarred questions or another type of questions asked generally in the questionnaire. So in this period, what happens is they have to give the written reply. That means ministers whom generally have asked the questions, they have to answer them in the written format. So when they are answering in the written format, they generally don't give any chance for supplementary questions. So this will generally be marked as white, right? Then there is also a concept of short notice questions. So these will be given with a short notice of 10 days prior, and these questions also will be answered orally. So these are the main things, and these generally will be addressed in pink color. So these are the different colors and different types of questions generally posed by members of parliament to the ministers to make them responsible to the legislature by posing these type of questions in the questionnaire. Then next, questionnaire generally will be followed by 0 hour. 0 hour generally starts at 12 noon, right? So this is a second hour, you can say. In this questionnaire or after in the 0 hour, generally what happens is members can ask randomly the questions without any notice to the members of parliament. So 0 hour is an Indian innovation. So there is no mention of this concept in any other things. It is not mentioned in the constitution, not even in the rules books of the house also. It is an Indian innovation. During this time, any member can ask any type of question without any prior notice to the minister, and the answer can be expected. Then calling attention motion. So when a particular member of the house want to draw attention of a minister to that particular issue, he can initiate calling attention motion. So this calling attention motion is like a censure against the government. So generally it will also be initiated in the Lok Sabha. So in the calling attention motion, what is the similarity? It is also an Indian innovation. It is also an Indian innovation, right? Then next topic is adjournment motion. Adjournment motion means adjourning something. That means in the house, if there is something being discussed, so suddenly if the members feel there is something public, some public issue is very important, but it was not being discussed in the house proceedings, then 50 members at least with the notice given to the speaker can initiate adjournment motion, asking the house to discuss that particular topic of public importance, and the discussion should last at least for 2.5 hours. It should be factual, it should be very urgent, and it should not deal with privilege of any member. So certain conditions are laid down, and understand this adjournment motion is like a censure again, and it has to be initiated only in Lok Sabha. It cannot be initiated in Rajya Sabha, right? So the 50 members notice has to be given to the speaker or the presiding officer of the house. Then no confidence motion. So what is no confidence? When 50 members of the house minimum, they'll try to initiate a motion with the name no confidence. That means they say we are not having confidence in the government, because according to Article 75 of Indian Constitution, all the executive members are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. They have to be responsible. In case if they feel that there is no confidence on the executive by the legislature, they can initiate a no confidence motion. So then what happens? No confidence motion cannot be initiated against one particular member or a minister. It has to be initiated against the entire government. So once if it passes in the Lok Sabha, then government will collapse. That means they have to resign and another government will be formed. So understand, like adjournment motion, no confidence motion also will be initiated only in Lok Sabha, right? Then censure motion. What is censure? So when any person feels that the person who is giving the reply, like minister, if he is not answering properly, then censure motion can be initiated. That means you are trying to censure the actions of the government. So what is the difference between no confidence motion and censure motion is, in censure motion, when you are initiating the motion, you need to state the reason, right? And in no confidence motion, minimum of 50 members can initiate without stating the reason for initiation of that motion also. Then second, censure motion can be passed against a single member or a minister or entire government also. But in no confidence motion, it cannot be initiated against a single member. It has to be initiated against all the council of ministers only. Then if censure motion is generally passed, it will be considered as a criticism of the government, that's it. But they need not actually resign. But in case of no confidence motion, they have to resign if no confidence motion is passed. So these are the primary differences between no confidence motion and censure motion. Then we also have another important House proceeding is motion of thanks. So when this motion of thanks will be introduced, generally in the first session of every parliament in that particular year, or after the elections of particular general elections, when the first session of that particular house assemble, at that point of time also, in two occasions. One is in the first session of that particular year, at the same time after every general elections when the house sits for the very first time. In these two occasions, President of India generally assembles and he'll give some speech to the combined session of parliament. That means combining Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha together in one joint session. So that is what we call it as, that speech what he reads in the house, addressing the house members of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, is called motion of thanks. So that means he is trying to project the government policies and trying to get his confidence, or the house of the confidence of the house with respect to the government policies and all. So in case if motion of thanks is not passed, again government has to resign. So understand, in all these things what we have discussed, in no confidence motion and in motion of thanks, if these two things, okay, so if no confidence motion is passed and if motion of thanks was not passed, then government has to resign. So understand. Now let us say the practice question. So a censure motion in the Parliament of India can be moved only in the Lok Sabha, expresses lack of confidence in the government or particular minister, then needs to state the reasons for adoption. So among these, which you feel the correct option, let me know in the comment section. Then today, as part of the concept of the day, we have discussed different devices in the parliamentary proceedings which we generally come across in the newspaper. So I hope you found this video useful as part of your preparation. If you want any more videos, let me know in the comment section. Thanks for joining. All the very best.